Hello, welcome to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're going to be talking about training scars. Today's training scar is real simple. Take nothing for granted. On this episode, I'm going to cover what happened to me out of One Shepherd with my 782 gear. And basically, my tape failed. I taped this rig together, or taped it down I should say, 20 years ago when I really got it just the way I wanted. Yes, my body's changed over 20 years, but at the same token, it hasn't changed all that drastically much. The uniforms still fit, the rig still fit, and I had no problem with it. It was working fine. But tape is not a forever item, and 100-mile-an-hour tape, despite all the mythical qualities we give to it, gives out after a while. If you've watched my last couple of videos on One Shepherd, one of the things that you've heard is how my 782 gear fell apart on me. And that did happen, and it was kind of a bummer to say the least. One of the things about when you go to the field is everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And in my case, I really had that in spades at the last FTX. But one of the things that failed me is just something you just wouldn't expect of in a million years. And as you can see before you, that's the 782 gear I wore. I've got Blackhawk suspenders on a GI issue belt, GI issue canteens, Blackhawk mag pouches, Blackhawk night sheath, GI pistol mag pouches, and a compass pouch with an IR light in it. Now, what failed, you might be asking? Well, basically the straps did. And they failed pretty spectacular and in a slow motion way, so it took a while to figure out what the frickin' problem was. And as I go through it here, it's just going to make you crack up. What failed was the tape. And as you can see, I got plenty of tape all over this thing. I've had this rig a very long time, about 20 years to be exact. And you know, I got it set a long time ago. It was just the way I liked it. Went ahead and taped it down to make sure it wouldn't shift, because with these slide keepers right here that go ahead and make the adjustments for you, it doesn't take much for them to pull free, as you can see here. So when you adjust them, they pull free. And the little elastic keepers here, these long stopped being elastic a long time ago. So it is the weak point of the system. I'm not sure there's a better system out there, but it is what it is. And one of the things you do is you tape down your rig when you get it the way you want. And before you tape down anything, put it under a full load. And what I mean by that is don't get it all set, tape it all down, and then fill your canteens. And then fill your magazine pouches with magazines that are full of ammo. That weight dynamic changes everything, and it'll cause your stuff to stretch. So your perfect empty rig that felt just right is all of a sudden down around your butt when all the straps stretch out, and it makes for an uncomfortable ride. What happened with me is the tape gave way. As you can see here, things are still taped right there, and it gave way and this strap pulled out. You can see where it had been taped. And this whole thing came undone. And I didn't realize it because we had the MOLLE system, not the MOLLE system, but the mile system over it. So the mile system helped out a little bit, but not much. So somewhere during the FTX, this thing completely unthreaded. On this side, you can see the tape broke loose completely, and only the tape up here sort of kind of stopped it from unthreading, but it still came undone. In the back, this tape, not even doing anything. And I had to do an emergency taping here just to get this thing back together. And when it was covered up by the Miles gear, I couldn't see the problem. And the part that sucked about this is as we finished up the STX, we did a conditioning hike, 2.5 kilometers. Rig rode perfectly, it was great. I had no problems with it. When we step off from the FTX, things went wrong right away. And at first I thought, well, I have this 20-something pound DR8 in my pack along with some TA1s, and that's just a little bit extra weight that's kicking my ass. And it turned out, well, that was part of the problem. The real problem is my rig had started to fall apart, so it wasn't riding right. So instead of these big, wide strap things providing extra cushion for the rucks, they were sliding all over the place. And this buckle here was getting twisted and turned, and all the pressure of the pack was coming right down on my shoulder, making it incredibly uncomfortable to carry the ruck. Also, the rig was shifting out of place. As the exercise went on, the problem just got progressively worse, because it's not like the strap this strap here, for example, just cut loose and went sliding out through the buckle. No, it just inched out slowly. So I went through this thing of my rig riding perfectly to now my rig's down on my butt, now my rig's below my butt, and it just keeps getting lower. Matter of fact, the night that Brent and I went and did our 5-hour recon patrol, the thing completely unthreaded. And at one point it was practically down to my knees. Now, also another point is we were doing our march back to our patrol base. I was having to extend my arm out full holding the pack strap just to keep it up so I could walk, because as it got down below my waist, it restricted my movement and I could barely move. Going forth, I've got to completely reset and re-tape this rig. The only tape that's held is some I applied while we were out there in the patrol base in the morning, right before we had the final assault in our position. And had I not done that, probably as I was running around, I would have lost my entire rig. What's the moral of the story here? The moral of the story is completely simple. Always check everything. Assume nothing. For 20 years that tape's held. Well, I should probably every year or two just take it apart and retape it just to keep it up to snuff so I don't have this problem again. But it also shows that you have to be prepared for anything, because I used this rig all week long throughout the Basic Warrior and the STX exercises, and it provided no issues to me. It performed excellently, performed great on the conditioning march. It's only once we stepped off in the real op things fell apart. We hope you found this edition of Pegasus Test interesting and informative. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for future training scar videos.